Well, we might be in a little bit of a break right now, but the one thing we know is that what we're about to do is going to have everyone talking in the NBL community. It is, of course, Derek Rucker's top 15. We had a look at this in the preseason, and then during the first FIBA break, he got together and put a list. This end-of-season list is going to be a fascinating watch for all of us. I'm Jack Heverin. It is, of course, Derek Rucker's top 15. Derek Rucker, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jack. And, of course, we know how difficult this list is, but I've worked on it, and actually it's starting to get more exciting as I accumulate the names and the list of so many talented players, but also it gets so tough time after time, and this one was exceptionally hard.
Don't forget, of course, at Derek Rucker on all social media handles. Hit him up directly, and he'll take all of your feedback. I mean, this has become part of what we do now. This has become a part of the conversation. Even at the MVP Awards last week, I heard players come up to you and say, "Were you going to have me on your list at the end of the season?"
Yeah, and it's fascinating, and also it's very humbling because it just started as a simple idea. You and I were having a conversation, and now it's kind of evolved into this little bit of, it adds something to the season, I feel, and people can make of it what they want, but I think players do actually like being on the list.
Or not being on the list, as we've learned over time as well. So let's just talk a little bit about the process. In this episode, we're going to take a look at players 15 through 6, and then tomorrow we'll take a look at 5 through 1. When you're breaking this down, how much of it is, if you were to try and break it off into a pie chart, how much of it is data versus feel versus impact on games? How do you end up with the numbers?
Well, it varies from player to player. So I do look at the advanced metrics, and obviously that speaks volumes. I would say that's probably got a 50 to 60% weight to it. But then I watch the games, the footage. I look at injury history, how your team's doing. Because if your team is really successful and blowing teams out, there's a high likelihood that the data may not be as favorable to you because you lose minutes late in games and so forth. I also look at other things. Are you a good teammate? And I'm looking for guys that can play a certain style. Do you play a winning style? All these things come into it, and because of the combination of all of these variables, that's why it's so hard to do.
What about winning? That's the other part of this. I mean, this is such a success-driven league that we have here. Do you factor in ladder positions and those sorts of things as well?
I certainly do. And there is an advanced metric called a net rating, and basically gives you an idea of your impact on the game per 100 possessions. That is one of the biggest ones I look at because it's slightly more advanced than the plus minus. It gives a truer indication of how your team performs when you are on the floor.
So before we get into the first of our players here in the top 15, are there any, you can't have everyone, are there one or two apologies that you'd like to make?
The first one is Will Magnay. We know that he potentially could be a top 5 player on this list, but due to injuries, he missed a vast majority of the season, so he just didn't qualify. That was a tough one. Matthew Dellavedova, another tough one.
Not in the top 15?
Not in the top 15.
Wow.
And again, I just thought he just wasn't quite there. I really liked the way he finished the season, but it's tough. It's really tough to make the 15.
Might just motivate him ahead of their semi-final series. Okay. Without further ado, let's start Derek Rucker's top 15, and we start with number 15.
Number 15 is Nathan Sobey from the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, and this is a guy, Jack, who has been polarizing. He's been one of the players that hasn't been able to squeeze into the 15. Highly athletic, passionate, but this season he has started to find his way. He's averaging 17 a game. He's always a threat when he's on the floor. He's improved his decision-making. One of the criticisms of Nathan Sobey was that he played too much hero basketball. That seems to have dissipated. He is much better on the defensive end, and he looks like he's enjoying the game a lot more. It seems like he's taking pleasure in seeing his teammates excel as well, Jack. He has been a major factor in the late run that Southeast Melbourne have been in, and he's dangerous. Look at that. He's the most dangerous two-guard in the competition when he's on his game.
You talk about numbers that matter. I think the assist number for Nathan Sobey is the thing that stands out. He's now top 10 in the competition for assists over the course of the season. So, yes, field goal attempts might still be high. That's probably always going to be the case with Nathan Sobey. But the fact that he's willing to give up his looks for others, is that Is it a sign of maturity for a guy in his mid-30s? Is that even possible?
It is possible because he's showing it right now, but it's also a credit to Josh King in that Josh King has harnessed Sobey's abilities. And now, I mean, you pointed out perfectly, the assists, the lack of assists is one of the reasons why he hadn't cracked the top 15. But now he's handled that, and he's number 15.
And the other part to Nathan Sobey's game is that he's impacting wins. And he has a couple of tough years at Brisbane where they were not a great team. This year, there have been games for South East Melbourne where he has been the difference between winning and losing.
That's correct. And, you know, it gets back to the point, winning matters. And if you can contribute to that in a positive manner, then you get more value. And that's why Sobey is right there. Congratulations for him for cracking the 15 for his first time.
Well, that might just surprise a few to start with, that Nathan Sobey's made the list. Who lands at number 14?
Number 14, this is a tough one. Parker Jackson Cartwright.
Hey, whoa.
I know, man.
He was number one at the fever break.
He was number one.
How do you go from number 1 to number 14?
He was injured, and of course, the 5-game suspension was a killer for his season. Now, we're not trying to kill the Breakers here. This isn't the point of it. But there certainly was a change in PJC once the import swap of Freddie Gillespie for Taco Fall occurred. I don't think it suited his style of play, but he's still one of the most brilliant players in the comp. He's being penalized in my list, though, for the suspension and then the late season injury. He's just missed too much play, and realistically, Jackie wasn't a factor in the second half of the season.
Well, and the body language, I mean, this was the story for New Zealand as a whole, wasn't it? It wasn't just PJC, but the body language seemed as though the spirit and the soul, I think, had been taken out of that team. And I think, as we learnt, Derek, he is the spirit and the soul of that team.
He is, but this number 14, it could go to number 2 if he's back in the competition like that. Because that's
you can switch like that, can you?
That's how talented he is. You know that. And I don't know what his future holds at New Zealand, but this is a guy several NBL teams should be pursuing as soon as free agency opens.
I guess that, I mean, we're almost in marketplace areas here, aren't we? But I guess that's, the mind almost goes to who else could PJC play for in this league and who else could he have an impact for, doesn't it?
Well, there are a number of teams, and, you know, I'm not going to say any names, but there are several teams out there that could use an MVP-type talent.
At his absolute best, he is a proven match winner, isn't he? He is one of, do you think, the best match winners that we have here in the NBL?
If he had maintained his form from pre-FIBA break to after, we'd have been having a tremendous MVP discussion. There would have been 4 guys in the MVP discussion. It would have been Matt Hurt, Kendrick, Bryce, and of course, PJC.
Don't you two just ride the roller coaster, Derek Rucker and PJC? He wasn't on the list. He storms the commentary table. He's number 2 on the list at the FIBA break, and you two are boys. You're all over each other on Instagram, and now he's at 14. What's going to happen next in this relationship? To number 13.
Number 13 is Jack White. Now, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because Jack White, I thought at the FIBA break, was looking for an all-NBL first-team appearance. Got hurt. And this is kind of a common cause when you look at those 5 spots outside the top 10. There's always some extra circumstance that seems to have occurred that limited this person's ability to crack the top 10. All these guys in the top 15, Jack, are top 5 talent, but you can't squeeze everyone in. Jack White had a really good season. He averaged 14 a game. I love the fact that he rebounds the basketball so well. 9 rebounds per game. He's a great effort guy. He lives off second chance opportunities, very good teammate, shows outstanding leadership. And, you know, I think Melbourne United can't win the championship with him not being healthy. He must be healthy.
It's interesting, all of those things that you just mentioned, they were all of the points off the top that we spoke about. He's like the ultimate box ticker in many ways for a team.
He is, and, you know, the calf injury right before the FIBA break I thought really disrupted his flow. Because, you know, he needed time to adjust to playing NBL again after being over there in the G League and doing some NBA stuff. But to get back to NBL style of play, I thought he was really getting there, and then he did that calf, and it disrupted his season. But still, another guy in 2 to 3 years' time that I feel will be consistently in MVP discussions.
You read my mind. That was what I was going to ask you. Do you think he's the sort of guy that could be an MVP in this
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And the value in Jack White is the character also. You know, he comes out of Duke. Duke produces high-quality men, and it goes with his basketball ability. And he's a great find. He's one of the best 4 men in the competition. You know, you could throw up Jack White, Xavier Cooks, Keanu Pender, who I really consider a 4. All those guys are outstanding local bigs, and it's very hard to differentiate between any of them.
So we're starting to see injuries play a little bit of a role in this top 15. Next on the list, please.
Next on the list is Keanu Pender, the man I just discussed. Keanu Pender is an outstanding basketball player. But Jack, a lot of people hate him. I don't understand why.
Why is this?
You see it, we feel it. I don't know if it's the mask. I don't know if it's the hair, but for some reason, he is a very polarizing player. But if you go and look beyond that and look at the advanced metrics, Keanu Pender is a very productive player. When Bryce Cotton was out of the lineup, Keanu Pender stepped up and had some really big games just to keep wins ticking over for the Perth Wildcats. He plays with high energy. He has a huge motor. Sometimes he's a bit too careless and reckless, puts himself in dangerous positions. But when you talk about a guy that knows how to play the game the way the Wildcats want to play it, Keanu Pender's a really good fit.
Do you think the polarization, if that's a word, involving Keanu Pender, is it because the gap between his best and his worst is so big? You don't often see Keanu play just an okay game. To me, he either seems as though he's one of the best 2 or 3 guys on the court, or he's not having much impact.
And also, John really will go stints where he sits Keanu. His minutes were down this season compared to last season, but yet his points per game were up. And I don't care how you measure it up, Keanu Pender is one of the top 15 players in the league.
Yeah, at his absolute best, I agree with that. You can see on the bottom of the screen too the FIBA rank, the breaks where we had Derek in the FIBA break and pre-season. Keanu's always been around the mark. I guess the question for him is, how does he go from, on this list, being a guy in the teens, or I think he was as low as 9, how does he go to being a top 5 player?
You got to get those minutes up, and whether that's the coach's discretion or Keanu performing to even a more elevated level, that he demands those minutes and they must have him on the floor. But keep in mind also, the Perth Wildcats have a nice quartet of bigs.
They certainly do. We're flying through here in Derek Rucker's top 15. Let's go to number 11.
Sam Froling of the Illawarra Hawks.
Yes, I love this.
Sam Froling, an outstanding big man, and being a point guard, I appreciate players like Sam Froling. What he can do, screen the ball well. He rebounds. He goes straight to the front of the rim. His game is very, very simple. He's low maintenance, low usage for when you take into consideration how many points he gives you per game. He's just a very good basketball player. He averages 14.6 per game, gets 6, 7 rebounds a game. But look at the usage. His usage is 23.7, and his player efficiency rating is 21.3. The closer those two numbers are together, the more elite you are as a player. And to have a local big like Sam Froling is invaluable. And you look at that matchup right there, he and Isaac Humphries were neck and neck last season. And I think Froling has taken the jump now whereto he is clearly a more valuable player than Isaac Humphries.
He's an interesting one, Ruck, because the game's changing. There's no doubt about that. He is a bit of a throwback in many respects, isn't he? There's not many bigs in this league right now who you can genuinely roll it into on the low block and they make things happen.
He has that versatility, and he can post up. We know what he likes to do. He likes to get baseline off of his post up, but full credit to him because he's mastered those skills. He's mastered that move to become almost unstoppable when he decides to go. But another key thing, Jack, is that he's learned to play with Trey Kell and Tyler Harvey, two really good creative guards, and he's figured it out. And that's part of the skill of being a really good player as well. How quickly do you learn?
I think back to all of our preseason predictions and shows that we did. The common theme from you and from some other NBL experts was that it's time for Sam to grab this league by the scruff of the neck and take control. Now we look forward 6 months. Has he done that? Is he now starting to really grab control of this league?
You only have to look at his performances and see when he is really productive, the Hawks are unbeatable. They're unbeatable. And not only that, he's consistent, but when he gets above that 15-point mark, when he gets into 17, 18, 19, he shoots such a high percentage, it allows Harvey and Kell just a little bit more leeway. They can take a few more risks in the game And sometimes when those great players take risk, it leads to outstanding results. He's invaluable, Sam Froling.
Great to see Sam Froling get recognition at the NBL MVP Awards as well. And nice to see you, Derek Rucker, giving some recognition to bigs. It's not just the guards in your list so far. It's good to see.
It is. And, we got to, the bigs are so valuable in a perimeter-based, high-paced league. And that's why if you have one, you better keep him and lock him up.
Let's go to number 10 in Derek Rucker's top 15.
Number 10 is Casey Prather of the Brisbane Bullets. We need a new award. We need a Comeback Player of the Year award because some people felt that he didn't fit in the Most Improved Player. But he deserves some type of comeback player because I had him in my ballot for Most Improved Player. So, okay, I understand where he doesn't slot in that category, but this guy was unofficially the Comeback Player of the Year for the Brisbane Bullets. Averaged over 20 points a game this season. It was a huge, huge season for him. The Bullets were mired with injuries, and Casey Prather carried them at times. We saw that run of 30-point games that he had. They pulled off some really big wins. At one point in the middle of the season, they had won 6 out of 8 basketball games, and it was primarily due to the form of Casey Prather. Look, not only an outstanding basketball player, but continuing to mature. We know he's a high-character person, and the Bullets stitch him up for one more year.
Yeah, which is a great move by Brisbane front office to get this guy back. And I'm sure that he'll get rewards. I know Olgun Ulich reported that he was the lowest paid import in the league this season. I'll guarantee he's not the lowest paid import next season coming up. For Casey, though, I think we probably all need to put our hands up, don't we? We were sitting there at the Blitz, and he was just starting to get his body going again. And
I thought he was cooked, Jack.
There are a lot of people, we were sitting there at the Blitz. There are a lot of people who said, gee, this isn't going to work. Do you think he was driven a little bit by... He would have heard some of that. He's pretty switched on to what goes on in this league. Do you think he would have been driven by proving people wrong?
He's so motivated like that. And I think not only was it the external motivation from the whispers I'm sure he heard, and the body language and the doubt he probably felt when he talked to people about what he was going to do this season, but internally, like, he has that drive to be great. This is a guy who's won championships here with blue chip franchises, Melbourne United and the Perth Wildcats, okay? And I spent a little bit of time with Casey in the lead up to the season just getting to know Ariana, his wife. And Casey would be talking to me and I would ask him, how you doing, how you doing? And he would always say, Ruck, I'm good, I'm good. I must admit, I wasn't sure he was good. So I put my hand up as being one of the people that maybe I didn't doubt him as much as others, but I certainly did not anticipate this type of productivity.
And the saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, he's never shot the 3 ball as well as he shot it this season. Where has that come from?
At about 40% from the three-point line. And I think, again, you talk about internal motivation and willingness to learn and adapt. He figured it out. I'm not going to be able to put the ball on the deck and do all the things I used to do with the same fluidity and athleticism. He still can get to the hole on you, but he does it more out of a power game now. But a lot of it is based off the threat now, because people know that he can shoot the 3, so you got to close him out a little bit differently, and then that opens up the penetration.
We don't have an award for Casey Prather and whatever this season was, but his main prize, other than being All-NBL second team, of course, is his mate Derek Rucker's top 15. We're into single figures now, number 9.
Number 9, Jalen Adams of the Sydney Kings, the outstanding point guard. And Jalen is a tricky one because he has such big games. You know, we saw him go for 40-plus twice this season, but they lost both those games. And then we saw some flat performances at the end of the season, including the incident down in Illawarra. But, Jack, you can't deny this guy's greatness.
This is a funny one, though, Ruck. I think people will be indifferent about Jalen Adams at 9 because there'll be a lot of people that will be saying he should be better than number 9. So that's not a reflection on your list. Is that a reflection on his season? Like, this is an MVP caliber kind of guy.
It is, and I thought, about round 15, round 16, the Kings weren't playing brilliant basketball, but they were winning games. They were winning ugly, and Jalen was leading them. That's when the Mr. Fourth Quarter tag came, and he came up big in some huge comeback victories. The guy has immense talent, and it is frustrating to watch him sometimes not operate at the level that a lot of us former players would love to see him go at. But there's still hope there. And as we continue to watch his career progress, firstly, it's going to be interesting where he lands next season. Is he back with the Sydney Kings? What does that look like? But certainly, this is a guy that I don't think we want to lose from the NBL. And I actually, Jack, not sure this is appropriate, I wouldn't mind seeing him at another club just to get a fresh start.
Probably makes sense for both teams, doesn't it? Jalen gets a chance to go somewhere else, and he would be a great fit at a few other teams. And he doesn't seem as though it's the sort of point guard that Brian Goorjian wants. Would that be fair?
Very fair.
You know Brian Goorjian's style better than most.
Yeah, it's very fair. And Brian is such a wonderful coach, but it looked like there was not the meshing between coach and point guard at the optimal level. And that's not to blame either man. That's just the way it goes sometimes. But Jalen Adams, you know, he is a terrific basketball player. And he's not that old still. It just seems like we've known him for so long. There is still a space for him to excel in our league.
So he's number 9 on your list. Like he's, in your opinion, in the top 10 players in the league. Has he had a good season?
He's had a decent season, but not to his potential.
Probably a fair way to describe it. Number 8, please.
Wow, number 8. And this one, sometimes you feel good. You try not to have any personal bias, but Tyler Harvey is a guy who I like watching play the game. Not only for his abilities and his talent and the fact that he's a high character guy, it's the fact that he continues to get better, and it means something to him. You can see he takes pride in his improvement and then putting that improvement into gameplay. Jack, this is his best season of the year. This is the best season of his career here in the NBL. He's been outstanding. And he does so much for the Illawarra Hawks. Again, like Sam Froling, he has learned to play with Trey Kell. And that's not always easy to do. Sometimes two outstanding players in the backcourt don't mesh. He shoots the ball really well from the three-point line. And he is masterful in clutch moments and getting critical buckets. He can do it all. He can shoot the three ball. He can put it on the deck. And he's got the best float game in NBL history.
Which is interesting. We go back to last year, and there was some criticism about his shot selection and when to take that shot and when not to. You're saying that that's improved this year?
Big time. And again, so I put Tyler Harvey and Nathan Sobey in that same category where I've been impressed with their ability to learn the game and apply it. Because a lot of players will just be like, yeah, coach, I got you. And it doesn't change. Sobey and now Harvey have shown that ability to change. So that's credit to them and their coaches.
2-time All-NBL first team now after last Monday with the awards night. He's got the potential to become an Australian as soon as next season for Illawarra. It could unlock all sorts of possibilities for this franchise if Tyler Harvey becomes a local.
Well, he becomes one of the most valuable locals we would have in the league. And he scores the basketball so well. And when you're trying to evaluate scoring, when I look at his game, I don't see any imminent drop-off over the next 3 to 4, 5 seasons. And, you know, that's why that improvement in your basketball IQ, the attention to your intelligence with how you play the game is vital because, like Casey Prather, as you get smarter, you can maintain your productivity for longer.
2 to go in this episode of Derek Rucker's Top 15. At number 7.
His backcourt teammate.
Wow.
First team All-NBL, Trey Kell III. The best off-season signing of this NBL 25. He's been fantastic. He is a terrific all-around basketball player. He plays the point for Illawarra, which has really helped Tyler Harvey's game, allowed Tyler to get off the ball a little bit and play more freely while this guy runs the show. And at his size, Jack, 6'4", 6'5", he automatically gives the Hawks a size advantage. They are a big team. We noticed that at Hoops Fest, the size of the Illawarra Hawks. And he's averaged 17.8 a game, gets 4 assists and 4 rebounds, and he's just so versatile. But his thing, Jack, is health. Can he stay in the lineup? Is he going to break down in the playoffs? They can't have that because if he goes down, their chances of winning the championship are significantly reduced. And if he's healthy throughout, they win it.
Could they win it without him?
No.
That's how much of an impact he has.
I believe so. I believe over the course of a 3 or a 5 game series, say against the Melbourne United, they can't beat Melbourne United without Trey Kell.
And you think about the way that this Illawarra team was constructed. Justin Tatum's been on the record. A game last year, Illawarra versus Adelaide. Trey Kell has a really good game, and Justin Tatum in the back of his mind says, I want that guy next season, and they went and got him.
Jack, he was good at Southeast Melbourne. His
Just
first
injured.
season. Injured.
Yep.
He was good at Adelaide. Just injured.
Yep.
He went on a tear when Scott Ninnis took over and when Adelaide went on a run. And I was like, keep him there. But they decided to go in a different direction. And as you said, Tatum saw it. Tatum saw it. He saw the build. And when you look at last year's Illawarra Hawks, the team that lost in Game 3 to Melbourne United in Melbourne, if you put Trey Kell in that lineup and take Justin Robinson out, I promise you the fortunes of that game change.
Agree with you completely. So we're just on the periphery here of the top 5 at number 6.
At number 6, we have an all-time legend. One of the greatest shooters in basketball history. I'm not just talking about the NBL. We saw what he did with that magnificent performance earlier in the season against Perth at John Cain Arena. Chris Goulding is an absolute superstar, and you can't say enough about this guy, what he does as a teammate, his leadership. But Jack, he is going to be forever remembered for his potency, his ability to shoot the basketball from deep. Look at that. It doesn't matter.
No.
All he needs is a look. That's all he needs is a look. And I don't know how teams aren't aware of what he likes to do, but he continues to do it. And you admire him, and so many people dislike him for the flopping and the flailing and all that type of stuff. I never thought it was that bad. And you talk about learning. He doesn't do it anymore, Jack. He hasn't been doing it for the past 5 or 6 rounds. You haven't seen any of that. So all those people that want to get on his case about that, throw it out the window. But, you know, like I said, he is a winner. He knows what it takes at this level. And with Dean Vickerman, Chris Goulding, Shea Illy, that's the core of what Melbourne United winning basketball is about. And as long as those guys are in there, with Chris being the leader, they're always a chance in any game, anywhere.
Some of these guys are, as stars of the league, are death by 1,000 cuts. They will get you over the course of a game. Chris Goulding can bury a team in 4 or 5 minutes of basketball. That's how potent he is.
And I don't know how he's so patient, because if I had the ability to shoot the basketball like that, I would be like, get me the ball, get me the ball. But we've seen for seasons, and we've heard expert analysts saying, we need Chris to have more shots. Now, I don't know what happens in the building at Melbourne United, but in game, he seems very chill about not demanding the basketball, whereas I'm not sure if some other people with his ability would be so patient. But again, you know, he is a marvel to watch, and you put him in that Bryce Cotton category. When he's in town, go watch him play.
Absolutely.
Go watch him play.
Yeah, and even opposition fans, they may not like him, but he is an incredible player to watch. So that is 15 through 6. What do you think? What do you think the feedback's going to be for this part?
Right now, I feel pretty good about what's happening here. But
you haven't checked your notifications yet.
It's anxiety filled, and I feel good about it. But I know there's going to be some things, you know. Even as I read through it now, in real time, you know, I'm like, oh, was that right? Is it, you know, you feel like you want to tinker with it, but I think that's pretty strong.
We're going to come back next time and take a look at 5 through 1 in Derek Rucker's top 15. Of course, send us your thoughts via social media. You can hit Derek up on his own personal accounts as well if you like, or via the NBL channels as well. When we come back next time, we take a look at 5 through 1 in Derek Rucker's top 15.